are you? Hope you're doing well. My name is Rabbi Amichai Cohen, founder of livekabbalah.com, and today I'd like to speak about leadership and basically three forms of leadership that we learn about in last week's Torah portion, the Torah portion of Noah. And we're going to be speaking about the difference between mission-oriented leadership versus self-centered leadership. So jumping right into it, Noah is called a righteous person in his generations. And on that, our sages go on and they say, well, if he was in a different generation of Abraham or a generation of Moses, and he wouldn't have been anything special, he would have been just a regular person. And the question is, why is that? I mean, at the end of the day, Noah did a very great thing. He saved a portion of humanity from the great flood. And he did what he could do. He saved himself at the end of the day. So what's so wrong about what Noah did? And how is he different than Abraham? And how is Abraham different than Moses? So in this idea, we find a profound teaching about leadership, and specifically the difference between self-centered leadership versus mission-oriented leadership. So regarding Noah, Noah was an exceptional individual. He was righteous. He definitely was compared to the generation that he was living in. But at the same time, he was not someone that cared about everyone else. He didn't see that interconnection with the world. He saw himself as an individual who was just doing the right thing. And even though everyone else was not doing the right thing, he wasn't necessarily phased to really transform them. He spent 120 years building the ark, and our sages say the reason for that is to prolong the amount of time so that people would see him and thereby they may change their ways. But Noah didn't go out of his way. And that first form of leadership is a leadership that is self-centered in a way that, although it's not wrong, and it's the first phase of humanity's really version of leadership, nevertheless, it's a self-centered leadership where Noah basically saw himself as the end all. And he saw himself as, well, I've got to save myself. I got to do what I got to do. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's not necessarily a wrong form of leadership. And what would we do if we were in that environment? We would want to save ourselves as well. However, going to the next phase, we go to the phase of Abraham. Now, at this point, Abraham is his whole purpose in the world is to really bring about this consciousness of the unity of God in the world to all of humanity. So while Abraham was a great person in and of himself, before he even reached, and he didn't have to go any further, he reached epic fame, right? And according to many historians, he reached a quarter of the world with his influence and with his genius. The Maimonides says at the age of 3, he already knew God. And he was a great astronomer and philosopher, and he was a great scientist and a great orator. And so where did everything change? Everything changed when he felt that it's not about me any longer, it's about the cause, and it's about the mission. There's a mission for me to do in the world. And here we find the second type of leader, where Noah just saw himself being saved. Abraham now saw that there's a mission in the world. There's a mission to unite the world, to infuse the world with this unity, to permeate that unity within the world, that everyone would realize that there's a oneness, there's a connection that goes through and through every facet of humanity, to beyond humanity, to the entire world is interconnected. And that's what Abraham went to do in the world. Whereas we find by Noah, he just gave it up. And he's like, well, humanity is doing that. They're on their own. And I'm sort of just there to save myself. So Abraham goes all the way with this. He invites guests. He transforms the world, and he teaches. And him and Sarah, his wife, just do an unbelievable job of transforming the world. However, there's a limitation even to Abraham's mission, and that is with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where God says he's going to destroy Sodom. So Abraham goes up to bat with wicked people, these wicked people, and he goes and he prays for them. He's like, God, don't do that. They're still humans, they're still people. Please have compassion, have mercy. And he tries and he tries, and at the end of the day, God tells him, sorry, it's on my plan book. It's just going to happen. To that, Abraham says, well, okay, can't do any further. Tried my best. And he walks away, and God goes ahead to send the angels to destroy Sodom. That's the second form of leadership. Mission-oriented, really caring about the future of the world. However, there's a certain limitation. We could say there's a certain limitation, whereas I could do what I could do and I can't go any further. However, we go to the next phase, and that's the phase of Moses, of Moshe. It was called Moshe Rabbenu, basically the greatest leader that we have ever had. And Moshe, although God says that he will destroy the people after the sin of the golden calf, Moshe goes up to battle. And he says, if you destroy them, then erase me from your book. I don't want to have my name in your book. Don't tell me that you're going to start a whole nation with me now. I don't want any of that. I want them. Even though they're wicked and you say there's nothing that there is to be done, erase me from your book. And we find that this is the greatest virtue of Moses. At the end of Deuteronomy, where Moses' great virtues are described, the last thing that it says, le'enei kol Yisrael, yada chazaka le'enei kol Yisrael, that in front of all of Israel, where Moses took the tablets and he broke them, Moses was showing that he is even willing to forgo his connection to the Torah in order to absolve the people from being destroyed. And let me just explain that. So at the sin of the golden calf, the people, the Israelites, after receiving the Torah, basically, after receiving upon themselves, do not worship other gods. They did just that. Yet they didn't receive the actual tablets, which came down on the 40th day, which they were mistaken on. And had they received those tablets, then they would have been culprit for what they have done, and that would have been it. So Moses, instead of giving them the tablets, he says, I'd rather break the tablets than have the people being destroyed. Let the tablets be destroyed and not the people. And with that, Moshe was doing, what he was doing there is that he was showing that the people, that the cause, that the mission is the most important thing. Because the whole point is not just the theory of it. Whereas Abraham had the theory, and of course he had the people. But still, not going to the next level, we find that by Moshe, that he went to the next level, and he was even willing to break his own tablets that he carved. And the Torah is called the Torah of Moses. And he was willing to break them in order to save the people. And he was showing that it's ultimately about the mission. It's about the people. And he was saying to God, God, you sent me for what? For a purpose. The purpose is to be a leader to my people. And what is the epitome, the quintessential leadership? It's being completely selfless for the people. And that's what Moses teaches us. He teaches us this mission-oriented leadership, that we have a person, we have an individual that is so connected to his mission that the mission and him are completely one. He says, if something's going to happen to the people, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be involved. I don't want anything of that because it's not me and the mission. Me and the mission are completely one. And how do we get to that? So we're not Moses, we're not Abraham, we're not even Noah, right? But of course, these lessons are there for us for the taking. that we've got these three forms, these three modalities, so we could apply them to ourselves and to the environment around us. So many times we see leaders around us that are influencers, that have 20 million people that are following them, but what is the agenda there? What are they all about? Are they about amassing more power, more wealth, more followers? Or what are they talking about that's transforming the world? And that type of a leader is not really a leader. It's just a star, and it's just, a celebrity, which people mistaken for a leader. But what is a leader? A leader is someone that is there with a cause, that is there with a mission, and the mission is what drives them, not the ego, not what they are going to get out of it, the fame, the fortune, the power, the money. It's about what are they imparting? What is their story that they're basically giving out, that they're telling to the world? And in terms of the political, leadership that we see around us, it's very hard to distinguish what people are actually about. Are they about themselves, or are they about an actual cause? And they're serving the cause. They are servants of the cause, and the cause isn't serving them. That's the big difference. And for ourselves, we could apply this form of leadership as well. What is it that we actually believe in? What is the cause that really stirs us? And how are we servants of that cause? What are we doing for that cause? As opposed to asking ourselves, well, what is being done for me? There's a saying by the Tzemach Tzedek that someone complained to him by the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, and everyone is stepping on me. So he says, you're so worried about yourself that everyone is stepping on you. You put yourself all over the place, so everyone steps on you. Why don't you think about what you could do for others? And thereby no one is you won't get into anyone's space. You won't be affected as much. And so when we think about what we could do, right? It's almost like what Kennedy said. Ask not what your country could do for you, but what you could do for your country, right? And with those marching orders, you really, changed the way people viewed what their responsibility is. The responsibility is for how we could impart greater goodness for the collective whole around us, as opposed to thinking about ourselves and being self-centered in how we could save ourselves, just save ourselves, whereas we need to develop that healthy sense of self and how we could then transform that and really bring that about to the rest of the world. So wishing you a beautiful day, and please leave your comments, questions below, and looking forward to sharing more very, very soon. Many blessings.